The first sound was not a punch. It was a bowl sliding across the wooden floor. Bruce Lee placed it in front of a young student and filled it almost to the rim with water. The student had asked to learn power. Bruce gave him a bowl and said, "Carry this across the room without spilling your anger." The school was quiet that evening. Rain tapped against the windows, and the streetlights outside made long yellow lines across the floor. Most students had already gone home. Only one remained, standing near the heavy bag with swollen knuckles, a tight jaw, and the desperate posture of a young man who wanted strength before he understood responsibility. 21 years old, narrow shoulders, honest eyes, fast temper, and a private shame he carried like a stone in his pocket. He had not come to Bruce Lee because he wanted martial arts. He had come because he wanted power. That difference mattered. A student who wants martial arts can be taught slowly. A student who wants power may try to steal from the future. David had been embarrassed 2 nights earlier by a larger man outside a restaurant. No hospital, no broken bones, just a shove, a laugh, and the terrible feeling of being small in front of strangers. Since then, he had trained like a man trying to erase a memory through force. He punched the bag until his hands burned. He threw kicks before his balance arrived. He asked about striking harder, moving faster, ending fights quickly. Every question had the same hidden shape. How do I stop ever feeling that again? Bruce watched him for almost an hour before speaking. That was its own lesson. Many teachers correct too quickly because correction makes them feel useful. Bruce waited until David's impatience showed itself completely. A man cannot fix what he is still pretending is discipline. Finally, Bruce walked to the heavy bag and touched the torn leather where David had been striking. "You are not training power," he said. David turned, breathing hard. "Then what am I training?" Bruce looked at his swollen hands. Panic with good intentions. The words hurt because they were accurate. David looked away. He wanted to be told he was close, that effort itself was noble, that enough pain would become strength. Bruce did not give him that comfort. A serious teacher does not flatter a wound just because the wound is sincere. "I need more power," David said. He hated how young his voice sounded. Bruce shook his head. "You need power that can wait." David frowned. The sentence felt backwards. In his mind, power was the thing that arrived first, louder than insult, faster than fear, strong enough to make another man regret touching him. Bruce did not argue. He walked to a low table near the wall and picked up a metal bowl. He filled it with water from a pitcher and placed it on the floor. The surface trembled from the room's small movements. "Carry it," he said. David stared at him, offended. "I came to learn how to hit," David said. Bruce nodded. "Yes, that is why you must first learn how not to spill." The answer sounded almost insulting, but Bruce's face held no mockery. That made the instruction harder to dismiss. Cruelty can be fought. Calmness has to be understood. David bent, lifted the bowl, and started across the floor. He took 3 steps before water splashed over the rim. "Again," Bruce said. David tightened his grip and tried again. More water spilled, his shoulders rose, his breathing became shallow, and the bowl shook harder because the young man hated being seen failing at something so simple. Bruce said nothing for several attempts. The silence did work that speeches cannot. David heard his own breath. He heard the water move. He heard rain on the windows and his own impatience arguing with the bowl. The harder he tried to command it, the more the water betrayed him. After the 7th attempt, David set the bowl down too sharply. Water jumped onto the floor. "This is not fighting," he said. Bruce knelt, wiped the spill with a cloth, and answered, "No, this is before fighting. Most men lose there, and only notice later." That line stopped David more than a strike would have. Before fighting, he had imagined combat beginning when fists came up. Bruce was telling him it began earlier, in the breath, in the ego, in the memory of humiliation, in the need to prove strength before strength was ready. Bruce stood and asked him why he wanted power. David answered too quickly. "To protect myself." Bruce waited. The waiting pulled the truth out. David looked at the heavy bag. "To make sure no one laughs at me like that again." Bruce nodded. "That is different. Protection and revenge can wear the same face when a man is embarrassed. One preserves dignity, The other tries to repair pride by damaging someone else. Bruce understood the difference because he had seen strong men ruined by the need to answer every insult with impact. Power used from shame becomes a servant of the man who shamed you, Bruce said. David looked at him confused. Bruce continued, he pushes you once, and now he decides how you train, how you breathe, what kind of man you become. Is that power? David did not answer. The room felt smaller. The shove outside the restaurant had lived inside him for 2 days, commanding him like a second teacher. Bruce had named that command. Naming it did not remove the pain, but it made the pain visible enough to question. Bruce picked up the bowl and carried it across the room. The water barely moved. He was not slow in a weak way. He was measured, alive, balanced. Each step had a tension inside it. When he set the bowl down, not a drop had fallen. Patience is not moving late, he said. Patience is arriving whole. David stared at the bowl. The demonstration had no flash, yet it embarrassed him more deeply than a failed punch. Bruce had made stillness look strong. That disturbed David because he had been treating stillness like weakness. He had believed a real man should act immediately. Bruce walked him back to the heavy bag. Show me your hardest punch, and he said. David threw himself into it. The bag snapped, but his body fell forward after the strike. Bruce caught his shoulder and stopped him from stumbling. You hit hard, Bruce said, but you leave yourself behind. David looked at the bag. The compliment did not feel like a compliment. Bruce had identified the problem inside the success. Many young men mistake impact for completion. They ask whether the target moved, not whether they remained under command after moving it. Again, Bruce said. David punched. Bruce stopped him halfway through the recoil. His rear foot had lifted, his shoulder had tightened, his chin had drifted. Power is not the first explosion, Bruce said. Power is the ability to remain responsible after the explosion. Responsible was not the word David wanted. He wanted dangerous. He wanted respected. He wanted the memory of the restaurant erased. But Bruce kept giving him adult words. Wait, responsibility, patience, whole, words that did not flatter the angry boy inside him. Bruce asked him to punch at half speed. David hated the instruction, but obeyed. The first slow punch shook with tension. The second was worse because he tried to make slow look strong. Bruce stopped him. Do not perform control, he said. Have control. That correction reached him. David had been performing strength all evening. Louder breath, harder face, more effort than needed. Bruce had stripped away the audience, but David was still acting for the men who had laughed at him 2 nights earlier. Who are you punching for? Bruce asked. David opened his mouth, then closed it. That question was worse than the bowl. It followed the punch backward into the heart. He had not been punching for skill. He had been punching for witnesses who were not even in the room. Bruce lowered the heavy bag so it stopped swinging. A man who trains for ghosts becomes haunted by his own training, he said. David swallowed. The rain kept tapping the windows. For the first time all night, his hands lowered without being told. Bruce wrapped David's knuckles properly. The gesture was practical and quiet. He did not scold him for the swelling. He did not dramatize the pain. He protected the hands so they could learn tomorrow. That is one of the clearest differences between impatience and discipline. Impatience spends the body, discipline invests it. They began again. This time Bruce made David throw only 1 inch of movement from a relaxed position into a pad. Not for power at first, for connection. Foot, hip, shoulder, elbow, wrist. David moved too early in one place and too late in another. Bruce stopped him each time. The drill was boring after 5 minutes and humiliating after 10. David wanted combinations, sweat, proof. Bruce gave him tiny corrections, heel down, jaw soft, shoulder quiet, breath low. Do not reach, do not chase the sound. Let the body arrive together. At 15 minutes, David finally struck the pad with less effort and more result. The sound changed. It was not louder by much, but it was cleaner. Bruce heard it immediately. David felt it a second later. His eyes widened because the strike had come without the anger he believed power required. There, Bruce said. Now do not celebrate. Do it again. That instruction mattered. Young men often celebrate the first glimpse and lose the path that produced it. David reset. The next strike was worse. His face tightened because he wanted the clean sound back. Bruce stopped him. "You tried to own it too quickly." David frowned. Bruce continued. "Patience means letting a good moment become a habit before you turn it into identity." The sentence was hard but useful. David had spent his life turning moments into stories about himself. The restaurant shove had become one story. The clean strike almost became another. Bruce would allow neither to rule him. A man who wants power must learn not to be owned by failure or success. Both can make him foolish if he grabs them too quickly. They returned to the bowl. David groaned, but quietly. That was progress. He lifted it again. His first steps were better. Then he thought about being better, and water spilled. Bruce said, "The water heard your pride before your feet did." David almost laughed despite himself. The line sounded strange, but he understood it physically. The moment he admired himself, his body changed. Pride had weight. It rose in the shoulders, sped up the breath, tightened the hands. The bowl revealed what the mirror would have missed. Bruce made him carry the bowl again, then punch once, then carry the bowl again. The rhythm felt absurd until David began sensing the connection. If he could not carry water without disturbance, he could not carry power without leaking emotion. This was the real lesson. Power is not only what leaves the fist, it is what remains in the man before, during, and after the fist moves. If the man becomes less himself every time he strikes, the strike is borrowing from his dignity. David asked whether anger was always wrong. Bruce shook his head. "Anger can tell you something matters," he said, "but anger is a poor driver. It sees only the road directly ahead and often crashes into what patience would have avoided." That answer respected emotion without worshiping it. David needed that. Men are often told either to obey anger or pretend they do not have it. Bruce offered a harder path. Feel it, understand it, then decide whether it deserves the steering wheel. Bruce asked David to close his eyes and remember the restaurant. David's jaw tightened immediately. His fist curled. His breathing changed. Bruce touched his shoulder. "There," he said, "the fight began and no one is here." David opened his eyes. The room was empty except for Bruce, the bag, the bowl, and rain on the glass. Yet his body had prepared for the shove again. That frightened him a little. He had thought he was training for the next fight. He was still trapped in the last one. "Power must answer the present," Bruce said, "not the memory." David nodded slowly. That sentence gave him a new way to understand patience. Patience was not passivity. Patience was the discipline to make sure the present was actually present before he acted. The next drill was simple. Bruce stood in front of him and raised one hand. Sometimes the hand meant strike the pad. Sometimes it meant carry the bowl. Sometimes it meant do nothing. David failed most often on do nothing. His body wanted action because action felt like control. Bruce watched him jump early again and again. "You are not slow," he said. "You are afraid of waiting." David hated that because it was true. Waiting felt like the restaurant sidewalk. Waiting felt like the moment before being laughed at. Waiting felt like weakness. Bruce did not soften the truth. "If you cannot wait by choice, you will wait by fear," he said. "The other man will decide your timing." That line changed the drill. David began to see patience not as delay, but as ownership of timing. After an hour, the school had grown darker. Bruce turned on one small lamp near the wall. The room became almost too quiet. David's breathing had slowed. His hands still hurt, but they no longer shook. He carried the bowl again. This time only one drop fell. He looked at the floor, expecting correction. Bruce pointed to the drop. "That is where you wanted to hurry." David nodded. The drop became more useful than a speech. It showed him exactly where impatience had escaped the body. They worked until David crossed the room without spilling. He expected relief. Instead, he felt seriousness. The bowl had not made him powerful. It had shown him how easily he became divided. A divided man can hit hard. A whole man can decide what the hit is for. Bruce handed him the pad again. "Now one strike," he said. David set his feet, breathed low, and waited for the signal. The old urge rose, the need to prove. He felt it and did not obey immediately. When the signal came, the strike landed clean. The sound was deeper than before, not because he was angrier, because he was less scattered. Bruce nodded once. David did not smile. That was another kind of progress. He wanted to smile, but he also wanted to remember what had produced the result. Power, Bruce said, is not impatience with muscles. David looked up. Bruce continued, real power can wait because it is not afraid of disappearing. The sentence stayed with David. The power he had wanted earlier had been terrified. It needed constant proof. A power that needs constant proof is a fragile thing. It demands witnesses, arguments, revenge, loud rooms, and quick answers. It exhausts the man who carries it. Bruce was teaching a quieter power, one that could remain unused without feeling humiliated. David asked, then when do you use it? Bruce answered, when not using it would betray what must be protected. David expected a simpler answer. Hit when attacked, strike when threatened. Bruce gave him a moral standard instead of a reaction. That is what made the lesson adult. Power without a standard becomes danger looking for permission. Patience without a standard becomes fear pretending to be peace. The two had to meet, the ability to act and the discipline to know why. Bruce asked him to imagine the restaurant again. This time, David did not close his fist immediately. The memory still hurt, but it no longer controlled his shoulders as quickly. Bruce saw it. Better, he said. You are remembering without becoming the memory. Those words gave David more dignity than 100 hard punches. He had believed dignity would come from making another man afraid. Bruce showed him dignity could also come from no longer being ruled by the moment that had shamed him. The door opened then. A larger student named Michael stepped in, late from work, carrying a gym bag and apologizing. Michael was strong, cheerful, and unaware of the lesson he had interrupted. Bruce looked at him, then at David. Good, he said. Now we test patience with another body. Michael agreed to help. David's posture changed immediately. He liked Michael, but Michael was large enough to awaken the restaurant memory. Bruce noticed. Do not fight Michael, he said. Fight the hurry that Michael creates in you. The drill was controlled. Michael would step forward and place pressure on David's guard. David's job was not to strike first. His job was to feel the line, wait until the pressure committed, then angle out and touch the opening. The first attempt failed. David struck too early. Bruce stopped him. You hit the fear, not the opening. David reset. Michael came again. David waited longer, but then froze. Bruce stopped him again. Now you are asking fear for permission. The correction was sharp but exact. On the third attempt, David felt the difference. Michael's pressure moved from testing to committing. David angled, touched the ribs, and stepped out without panic. It was not spectacular. It was better than spectacular. It was controlled. Michael smiled. That was clean. David almost celebrated. He caught himself. Bruce saw that too. Good, he said. Let the work be enough. That line did not sound dramatic, but it was the medicine David needed. He had been starving for proof. Bruce was teaching him to value process before applause. They repeated the drill. Sometimes David moved early, sometimes late, sometimes clean. Each repetition made the emotional trigger less mysterious. Michael's size was still real, but it was no longer a monster created by memory. It was simply a factor. Factors can be trained. Bruce explained it plainly. A large man is not your shame. He is a body with balance, timing, openings, and pressure. If you see only your shame, you cannot see him. David listened. This was practical and personal at the same time. Michael asked what David was working on. David looked embarrassed. Bruce answered for him only partly. Power, he said. Michael laughed. Looks like waiting. Bruce nodded. Exactly. Michael's laugh faded into understanding. In that moment, the lesson became visible to a second man. Bruce then asked Michael to hold the bowl while David moved around him. Michael looked confused but obeyed. David had to angle without bumping him, breathe without rushing, and touch the opening without disturbing the water. The drill looked strange. It exposed everything. If David crowded too early, water shook. If he hesitated too long, Michael trapped the line. If he moved cleanly, the bowl stayed calm and the touch arrived. The room had turned into a mirror with two bodies and one bowl of water. Michael began taking the drill seriously. "This is harder than sparring," he said. Bruce answered, "Because sparring lets men hide inside motion. This shows what motion is carrying." David understood. His motion had been carrying shame, pride, fear, and the need to prove. Near the end, Bruce let them spar lightly. No ego, no winners, just controlled contact. David's first minute was rough, then he found the rhythm from the bowl. Wait, feel, angle, touch, leave. His movements became less angry and more present. Michael caught him once with a shoulder bump. David felt irritation rise. He almost rushed back. He stopped. That pause was the real victory of the night. Not the clean strike, not the bowl. The pause. The moment he could have become the memory again and chose not to. Bruce saw it and ended the round immediately. David looked surprised. "Why stop?" Bruce said. "Because you just used the power you came for." David frowned. He had not thrown anything hard. Bruce pointed to his chest. "You stopped yourself before the wrong action." That was not the kind of power David had imagined, but it felt heavier, more adult. Anyone can imagine himself dangerous after being humiliated. It takes more strength to stand inside the heat of humiliation and choose a better action before the body betrays the man. Michael shook David's hand. "You were calmer," he said. David nodded. The compliment landed differently because it did not feed revenge. It confirmed command. Bruce watched the handshake without interrupting. Sometimes a student needs another man to witness the change, but not worship it. After Michael left, David sat on the floor beside the bowl. The water had settled, his knuckles still hurt, but the pain no longer felt heroic. It felt like evidence of impatience. He looked at Bruce. "I wasted my hands tonight," he said. Bruce sat across from him. "Not if you learn before they heal," he answered. That was kindness with a spine. It did not erase the mistake. It gave the mistake a job. David looked at his bandaged knuckles and nodded. Bruce told him a story about students who want secret power. They ask for special strikes, hidden methods, quick answers. But the secret is often the thing they least want to hear. Train the ordinary until the ordinary stops leaking. David listened more carefully than he had at the beginning. The ordinary had defeated him all evening. Carry a bowl, breathe low, keep the heel down, wait for the signal. Do nothing when nothing is required. None of it looked like power from the outside. All of it changed what power could become inside him. Bruce said, "The man who shoved you gave you pain. Do not let him also choose your training." David closed his eyes. That sentence returned him to the restaurant, but not as a prisoner now. He saw the shove. He felt the shame. Then he saw the bowl. The bowl became a private image he could carry. When anger rose, he could ask whether the water was spilling, not literally, inside. Was his breath shaking? Were his shoulders climbing? Was he moving for the present or for the ghost? That is how a good lesson works. It gives the student a physical memory strong enough to interrupt an emotional habit. Bruce did not lecture David into patience. He made patience visible, heavy, inconvenient, and impossible to fake. The next week, David returned. His knuckles were less swollen. He did not start with the heavy bag. He walked to the table, filled the bowl himself, and carried it across the floor before Bruce said a word. Bruce watched him and gave the smallest nod. For 3 weeks, David trained that way. Bowl, footwork, 1-inch connection, pressure drill, light sparring, bowl again. Sometimes he hated it. Sometimes he felt foolish. But slowly, he stopped asking when he would learn real power. He began to understand that this was the beginning of it. One evening, a new student laughed at the bowl drill. David heard the laugh and felt irritation rise. Then he remembered himself laughing inside at the same drill weeks earlier. He did not snap at the new student. He said, "Try it when you are angry." The new student failed immediately. Water spilled across the floor. David handed him the cloth. "That is where you are leaking," he said. Bruce heard the line from across the room and smiled faintly. A lesson had become inheritance. That moment mattered more than a dramatic fight would have. David was no longer just receiving patience. He was protecting it for someone else. A man begins to own a lesson when he can pass it on without turning it into pride. Months later, David saw the larger man from the restaurant again. The man did not recognize him at first. David felt his chest tighten. The old heat rose, but this time he did not chase it. He felt his feet. He breathed low. He watched the present. Nothing happened. That may sound like an anticlimax, but for David it was a victory. The man walked past. David did not need to prove himself to the memory. He did not need to create a scene for strangers. He kept his dignity without spending his power. When David told Bruce, he expected praise. Bruce asked only, "Did the water spill?" David smiled and shook his head. Bruce nodded. "Then you are stronger." That simple answer meant more than any compliment about punching harder. This is the adult part of the story. The student wanted power to erase humiliation. Bruce taught him patience so humiliation could no longer command him. Power did come, but not as fantasy. It came as connection, timing, restraint, and the ability to wait without becoming weak. A younger audience might want the restaurant man to return and be defeated, but grown men understand the deeper victory. Not every insult deserves a performance. Not every memory deserves a fight. Sometimes the strongest answer is becoming a man who is no longer available to be controlled by the insult. That is not cowardice. Cowardice is avoiding what must be faced. Patience is refusing what does not deserve to govern you. The difference is subtle, and that subtlety is where dignity lives. Bruce Lee becomes the symbol in this story, not because he is untouchable, but because he understands power as responsibility. He gives David no shortcut, no revenge fantasy, no mystical solution. He gives him work honest enough to make the young man face himself. That is stronger than magic. Magic would flatter David. Work changed him. The bowl, the pad, the footwork, the waiting signal, the larger training partner, each forced him to separate real danger from wounded pride. The school remained small and quiet. Rain came and went. Students arrived and left. The bowl stayed on the table, sometimes used for tea, sometimes for training, always ordinary. Its power came from memory, not mystery. Bruce did not turn patience into a slogan. He made it a discipline, a thing done with hands, feet, breath, and attention. A thing tested when a man wants to hurry, strike, speak, prove, or answer ghosts. That is the only kind of patience that matters. David eventually hit harder. Of course he did. His body connected better. His balance improved. His shoulders stopped fighting his hips. His breath stopped betraying him early. But by the time power arrived, it no longer belonged to the angry boy who had demanded it. It belonged to a more patient man. That is the key. Power arriving before patience can make a boy dangerous. Power arriving after patience can make a man reliable. Bruce was not delaying David's strength. He was making sure it had someone worthy to carry it. The final image should not be a knockout. It should be David carrying the bowl across the wooden floor, rain on the window, Bruce watching from the side, the heavy bag silent. The power is there, but it is waiting because the man has learned to wait with it. That is why the story holds attention without empty violence. It begins with a strange task, reveals a wound, tests the student under pressure, and pays off with restraint instead of revenge. It gives the audience conflict, but it gives the conflict a moral spine. Every man has a restaurant moment, a shove, an insult, a failure, a laugh, a memory that makes him want to become dangerous quickly. The question is whether he trains from dignity or from the wound. David almost chose the wound. Bruce interrupted him. The interruption looked like a bowl of water. That is what makes the story memorable. A simple object, a difficult task, a young man's anger made visible. The audience can understand it immediately. If the water spills, the man is not ready. And readiness is the true word beneath the story. Not power, not patience alone. Readiness. The ability to act when action is right, wait when waiting is right, and know the difference before pride decides for you. Bruce Lee taught David that patience is not the absence of force. It is the command of force. The strongest punch in the room is not always the one thrown first. Sometimes it is the one held back until the man behind it is whole. That is masculine dignity in motion. The power to act, the patience to wait, and the self-respect to refuse being commanded by old humiliation. David came for power. Bruce gave him the discipline to deserve it. The bowl sat still on the floor after they left. The water did not know what it had taught, But David knew, and the next time anger moved inside him, he could feel the rim of that bowl in his hands, asking whether the man had arrived whole. Years later, David would not describe the lesson as gentle. He would say it was harder than being hit. A bruise lets a man feel like a victim. Patience makes him responsible for what he does next. That responsibility was heavier than the bowl. He learned that power without patience is often just fear trying to look brave. It swings too soon, speaks too loudly, and calls every pause weakness. Bruce showed him that the pause can belong to the stronger man if the stronger man owns it by choice. That choice became David's real training, not whether he could strike the pad loudly, whether he could stand with pressure in front of him and not surrender timing to fear, whether he could feel humiliation rise and not let it write the next action. This is why the episode should not turn into revenge. Revenge is too easy. It gives the wound a stage and calls the performance justice. Bruce taught something harder. Become strong enough that the wound no longer directs your life. The larger man outside the restaurant never needed to be punished for David to grow. That is an adult lesson. Sometimes the person who hurt your pride is not the final opponent. Sometimes he is only the event that reveals what was already untrained inside you. David's final opponent was impatience. It had his voice, his memories, his clenched hands, and his desire to be seen differently. Bruce put that opponent into a bowl of water and made him carry it until the truth stopped hiding. That is grounded storytelling. No secret technique, no mystical breakthrough, no fantasy of instant power. Just a young man, an old wound, a patient teacher, and drills that force the body to become honest. The drama comes from the man changing, not from exaggeration. Bruce's standard remains clear. Power must serve dignity, not repair vanity. If it serves vanity, it will always be hungry. If it serves dignity, it can wait. It can act cleanly. It can protect without becoming addicted to proving. David eventually understood why Bruce had begun with the bowl instead of the fist. The fist would have given him the illusion of progress. The bowl gave him evidence. Every spill said, "Not yet." Every clean step said, "Closer." That was teaching. And when the clean strike finally came, it came from the same place as the steady bowl, a body no longer arguing with itself. That is where real power begins, not in rage, but in unity, not in hurry, but in arrival. So the story ends with a simple lesson for every grown man watching. Do not ask for power before you can carry it. Do not ask for respect while your anger still spills over every edge. Learn to arrive whole, then let your strength speak only when it has earned the right. David came to Bruce Lee wanting the power to make others afraid. He left learning the patience to stop being ruled by fear. That is a better victory. It does not shout. It stays in the hands like a bowl carried steadily across a quiet room. The next time David saw his own reflection in the school window, he looked less like a man preparing for revenge and more like a man returning to himself. That was not weakness. That was recovery. The insult had not disappeared, but it no longer had the right to train him. Bruce knew that was the real turning point. Many students can learn a cleaner strike if corrected long enough. Fewer learn to remove the wrong reason from the strike. David's body improved because his reason improved. The fist was no longer carrying the whole burden of his wounded pride. This is why patience is not soft in this story. Patience is weight. It makes a man carry himself before he carries force. It forces him to stop spending power on ghosts, reactions, and imagined audiences. It asks him to become strong enough that he does not need every moment to prove he is strong. The bowl drill stayed because it did what words could not. It punished hurry without anger. It revealed pride without insulting. It showed fear without making David ashamed forever. A good drill does not humiliate the student. It makes the truth impossible to avoid. David eventually asked Bruce if the bowl was only for him. Bruce shook his head. "Every man has a bowl," he said. "Some carry money, some carry reputation, some carry anger, some carry love for their family. Power is what happens when he can carry it without spilling himself." That answer made the lesson larger without making it vague. David thought of fathers who lose patience with sons, workers who swallow insults all week then explode at home, fighters who mistake fear for aggression. The bull was no longer a training object only. It was a measure of the man. Bruce did not let the thought become sentimental. He stood, picked up the pad and said, "Now test it." That was important. Every emotional lesson had to return to the body. If dignity could not survive contact, it was only an idea with good posture. David struck the pad again. Clean, then carried the bowl. Steady, then faced Michael. Patient, then missed a timing and felt frustration rise. He breathed, reset, and tried again. This rhythm became his education. Result, restraint, mistake, correction, repeat. A month later, David hit harder than he had wanted to hit on the first night. But the stronger strike did not make him more arrogant. It made him quieter. Real progress often does that. When a man knows what it cost, he does not need to advertise it loudly. Bruce told him, "Now you have more power, so now you need more patience." David laughed because it sounded unfair. Bruce did not laugh. "Every increase in power increases the need for character," he said. That sentence stayed with David longer than any technique. That is the rule many men do not want. They want strength to free them from restraint. But strength without restraint only gives their worst impulses better tools. Bruce taught the opposite. The stronger you become, the more precise your patience must be. The restaurant memory still came back sometimes. David did not pretend it was gone. A man does not become mature because old pain never visits him. He becomes mature when old pain no longer sits in the instructor's chair. When the pain visited, David trained differently. He did not attack the heavy bag until his hands bled. He carried the bowl. He breathed. He waited until the water settled. Then he struck once, cleanly, with the present instead of the past behind it. That is why Bruce's lesson worked. It did not deny David's pain. It gave the pain a boundary. Pain could speak, but it could not command. Anger could warn, but it could not drive. Power could act, but only when patience had given it permission. For the audience, the message is direct. Wanting power is not wrong. A man should be capable. He should be able to protect himself and the people he loves. But if he wants power only to silence old shame, he may become a servant to the very thing that hurt him. Patience returns power to the man. It makes him decide rather than react. It makes him see the present rather than fight the past. It makes him strong enough to hold force until the right moment, and humble enough to keep training when the moment does not come. The final lesson is not that David became peaceful in the soft, harmless sense. He became more dangerous in the right way. Less predictable to fear, less available to insult, less eager to perform strength, and more capable of acting cleanly when action was truly required. That is the Bruce Lee standard in this story. Not magic, not revenge, not power as performance, power as command, patience as discipline, dignity as the ability to keep the bowl steady even when the memory tries to shake your hands.